A spoonerism is an error in speech or deliberate play on words in which corresponding consonants, vowels, or morphemes are switched between two words in a phrase. For example, saying the Lord is a shoving leopard instead of the Lord is a loving shepherd. While spoonerisms are commonly heard as slips of the tongue resulting from unintentionally getting one's words in a tangle, they can also be used intentionally as a play on words. Etymology: it is named after the Reverend William Archibald Spooner, Warden of New College, Oxford, who was notoriously prone to this mistake. The term spoonerism was well established by 1921. An article in the Times from that year reports that, the boys of Aldros School, Eastbourne, have been set the following task for the holidays: discover and write down something about the old lady of Threadneedle Street, a spoonerism, a busman's holiday. In 1937 the Times quoted a detective describing a man as a brick labourer's lair, and used police court spoonerism as the headline. A spoonerism is also known as a marrowski, purportedly after a Polish count who suffered from the same impediment. Examples: most of the quotations attributed to Spooner are apocryphal. The Oxford Dictionary of Quotations lists only one substantiated spoonerism: the weight of wages will press hard upon the employer. Spooner claimed that the Kinkering-Kongs their titles take was his sole spoonerism. Most spoonerisms were probably never uttered by William Spooner himself, but rather made up by colleagues and students as a pastime. Richard Lederer, calling Kinkering-Kongs their titles take one of the few authenticated spoonerisms, dates it to 1879, and gives 9 examples attributed to Spooner, most of them spuriously. They are: 3 cheers for our queer old dean. Is it customary to cuss the bride? The Lord is a shoving leopard. A blushing crow. A well-boiled icicle, you were fighting a liar in the quadrangle. Is the bin dizzy? Someone is oat-chewing my pie. Please sew me to another sheet. You have hissed all my mystery lectures. You have tasted a whole worm. Please leave Oxford on the next town drain. A newspaper column attributes this additional example to Spooner, a nosy little cook. Popular use: in modern terms, spoonerism generally refers to any changing of sounds in this manner. On the TV series Hee Haw, comedian-writer Archie Campbell was well known for using spoonerisms in his skits, most famously the Rinicella skit. In the novel Alchemy by Margaret Mahy, Jess Ferret often uses deliberate spoonerisms. In Maisie and the Penny Gig by Ursula Dubosarski, a little girl named Maisie has a recurrent dream about a giant guinea pig, which he calls a penny gig. In Jim Henson's Muppet rendition of The Frog Prince, the princess is under an enchantment by an evil witch forcing her to constantly speak in spoonerisms. Central to the story is her repeated plea that somebody bake the hole in the candle of her brain, by which she really means break the ball in the handle of her cane, referring to the orb in the witch's scepter on which her powers depend. Popular stand-up comic Andrew Dice Clay utilizes deliberate spoonerisms often, as an extension of his ignorant Brooklyn greaser persona. Shel Silverstein's book Runny Babbitt is made up entirely of children's stories that use spoonerisms. The name of electronic musician Com Truise is a spoonerism of Tom Cruise. Similarly, the name of the alternative musician Wavy Stonder is a spoonerism of Stevie Wonder. The Washington, D.C. political comedy sketch group, Capital Steps has a long-standing tradition of performing a routine called Lurty Dies during every performance, which features a typically 10-minute-long barrage of rapid-fire topical spoonerisms. A few examples over the years might range from Resident Pagan, and the U.S.'s periodic practice of licking their pedas to NSA pooping on snootin', and fugging everybody's bones. Poetry: in his poem Translation, Brian P. Cleary describes a boy named Alex who speaks in spoonerisms. Humorously, Cleary leaves the poem's final spoonerism up to the reader when he says, "He once proclaimed, 'Hey, belly jeans,' when he found a stash of jelly beans. But when he says he pepped in stew, we'll tell him he should wipe his shoe." Twisted Tales: comedian F. Chase Taylor was the star of the 1930s radio program Stowop-Neggle and Bud, in which his character, Colonel Stowop-Neggle, used spoonerisms. In 1945 he published a book, My Tale is Twisted, consisting of 44 spoonerized versions of well-known children's stories. Subtitled Waterpun, Aesop's Fables, and Tartpoo, Tari and Other Fails, these included such tales as Beeping Slooty for Sleeping Beauty. The book was republished in 2001 by Stone and Scott Publishers as Stowopnagel's Tale as Twisted. Also known for telling entire fairy tales using spoonerisms as Zilch the Taristeller. He travels to Renaissance fairs across the United States and in England regaling audiences with hilarious versions of classic stories such as Perunzel, Jamio and Juliet, Rinicella, and Riddle et Hiding Rood. Films. In the Mel Brooks film Robin Hood, Men in Tights, the Sheriff of Rottingham constantly speaks in spoonerisms. An example of this, Strucky has loxed again. Loxley has struck again. Song, the musical Ruthless, has a song called Unkey's Munnel with a spoonerism in every line. The title is a spoonerism of Monkey's uncle. Kniferism and forkerism, as complements to spoonerism, Douglas Hofstadter used the nonce terms kniferism and forkerism to refer to changing the syllables of two words, giving them a new meaning. Examples of so-called kniferisms include a British television newsreader once referring to the police at a crime scene removing a hypodermic needle. A television announcer once saying that all the world was thrilled by the marriage of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, and during a live broadcast in 1931, radio presenter Harry Von Zell accidentally mispronouncing U.S. President Herbert Hoover's name, Hubert Hever. Usage of these new terms has been limited. Many sources count any syllable exchange as a spoonerism, regardless of location. See also, blooper, mondegreen, Freudian slip, malapropism, Opperlandstahl and letterkund, parody, phonetic reversal, metathesis, portmanteau, sane and minnows, smart fella fart smeller, and other spoonerisms. References. External links, lists of spoonerisms at fun-with-words.com, The Straight Dope, Who Was Dr. Spooner?